Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer for NC State on SI, Tucker Sennett, covering your Wolfpack every day here, doing these podcasts. And today we are joined once again by my assistant beat writer, my good friend, Mr. Daniel Rios, who is joining us today to talk about his favorite thing, film. We get to talk about film. Dan has done his study, his breakdown of the NC State ECU Week 1 matchup. The Wolfpack pulled that game off 24-17. But before we get started, I got two things for you, Dan.
Well,
First thing, how are you today?
I'm great. I mean, not only was it an electric weekend of college football, the NFL starts in like 3 days. So we are in full sports window. Basketball's kicking off here soon. So baseball's winding down. We're getting to those peak months.
It's
So
starting to feel like fall again, you know?
it is. It
Yep.
is. Yeah,
Yep.
it's
Which is
great.
good.
Great times.
It's a good time. Um, my other question for you, because this is an NC State podcast. Describe Bill Belichick's debut in one word.
Dude, dysfunctional. About everything could have gone wrong and it went wrong. Like it was.
That first drive.
Yeah, good for Freddie Kitchens, man, calling
Yeah.
a really good script, and then after that,
It did
Shea
remind me
Lopez.
a little bit of Freddie Kitchens' Browns days because I feel like they also would have one good scripted drive and then
Yeah,
it would be a disaster from there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good about our prediction come November when that match
Yeah.
happens because that team looked really, really bad. And it obviously is a massive storyline here and nationally. It'll be
Oh yeah.
interesting to see. I was talking to some people on the beat today about their schedule. Um, you know, we'll see how they do against Charlotte next week in front of like 8,000 fans.
Oh
It's going to
Lord,
be really
dude.
bizarre to watch this unfold, but
Yeah.
especially after the attention that game got and the energy that there was beforehand. But let's forget about the wrong school. Let's talk about the proper school that we're paid to talk about, that we're paid to know about. Your North Carolina State Wolfpack, folks. They got the job done, Dan. They got the job done. It
They
it
did.
wasn't always pretty, but there were some interesting performers. Um, And I think, it's hard to see certain positions, what certain guys do in a game when you're watching on TV. I have the live press box view, obviously, and then Dan does his thing with the film later on, and we're able to see a little bit more than the average person is. So it's always good to talk these things out post game. Obviously, a little bit removed from that game with Virginia coming up now. But Dan, just tell me, based on your watching of the film, give me one player on the offense that stuck out that you might not have noticed on TV or in the moment, and then another player in on the defense that stuck out when you watched the film.
Yeah, I for offense, it's kind of hard to pick. Um,
Okay.
we're gonna get into it a little bit later, but Hollywood Smothers had a really nice game. I almost picked him. Didn't get much help, honestly, within the offensive line, but I'm gonna pick Teddy Hoffman, the true freshman out of Florida.
Talk of the
M-
town.
Man, he deserves it because that first big catch he made where CJ was kind of rolling out to his right and out of the pocket, he made the catch down the field. His ability to kind of realize that CJ was scrambling and he was kind of running like a little over route, so he's kind of going vertical down the field, not vertical, horizontal down the field. The
Yeah.
second he noticed Bailey out of the pocket, he turned vertical, turned it into a scramble
Yeah.
drill. That's hard. That's hard, man, for rookies, not rookie. I mean, be rookies basically
Yeah, true freshman.
to
His first college game.
yeah, first college game. Like he got pressed, if I remember correctly, on that play, and he's just able to just go vertical and separate himself and make a great contested catch still. Even on like the little like 12-yard comeback he had, him and Bailey, you can just tell the second he's coming out of his break, the ball's already coming out. He also has a really nice break. I like how he gets low and is able to turn his body around. Um, and then even his go ball, I think it was for 48 yards. Like Bailey underthrew that ball a little bit and he came
50.
back to it. It was 50. So I got them mixed up.
Hmm.
It's okay.
48 was the Wesley
Wesley,
Grimes
yeah,
touchdown.
yeah. Um, but he's going down the sideline and he's able to kind of come back to the ball, kind of gets in front of that defensive back and makes the catch. So I think through everything, he didn't play a lot of snaps compared to the other receivers. But still, I mean, he averaged 7.7 yards per route run, which if basically means that each route you're running, they average it out for how many yards you ran per route. Seven is crazy, just to put that lightly. For reference, Justin Jolie only had like 1 yard per route run, which is another little thing that I thought was pretty interesting. Um, but yeah, him and Grimes had really good games. They both had above 5 yards route, 5 yards per route run. So yeah, I think Teddy should be getting some more looks these upcoming weeks, if I were to guess,
Yeah.
and see the
Yeah,
field more consistently.
I would agree. And he, obviously when I was there jumped out, but the play you talked about with that ad lib sort of third down play, I could tell almost immediately that this kid was going to be valuable, not just because of, obviously the big playability, but
Yeah,
just because that chemistry is already there clearly, and there's some comfort, and I think that's going to go a long way with a young quarterback like CJ Bailey. Defensive side of the ball, who's a player that stuck out?
yeah. The honorable mention is going to be Devin Marshall. We talked about it a little bit. He balled out, only let up, I'm pretty sure, like 16 receiving yards, and they were two little like slants. Like it's what are
Yeah.
you gonna do?
Well,
Um,
I think that I want to say he was there were like six receptions when he was in coverage and he still only gave up 16 yards. So
yeah, I
that's
I I pulled it up real quick. Targeted 6 times, only allowed 4 catches and for 16
okay.
yards, like you said. Led the team in pass breakups, and he was just really instinctful. You didn't really see him get beat too many times. And, Caden Hauser just knew not to throw to his side realistically. I mean,
Yeah.
outside of the RPOs that they were running, the ball didn't come his way at all. I mean, in RPOs, you're gonna, Brian Nelson let up a couple catches. They're all on RPOs. Like, it's gonna happen, especially when you're playing off coverage like NC State was. But Devin Marshall is my honorable mention, and then my defensive player who really stood out to me, Sebastian Harsh. It's just I swear I want to shout out honestly this entire defensive line because there were some times where East Carolina came out and like a little trips 3-by-1 set, spreading out NC State, only 5 players in the box. And it didn't even look like it. I mean, they're getting defensive penetration up the line altogether. But Sebastian Harsh, 6 total pressures on the night, 4 quarterback hurries. He had a sack. Yeah, he blew up so many plays, just him by himself rushing up the field. They're just you just go rewatch the game because honestly, people at home, you can just see the defensive line as well. This guy's in the backfield like every single down, and it generally is crazy. Him and that entire defensive line balled out, but Harsh was the guy who really stood out to me.
Yeah, and you wrote a little bit about the fronts that DJ Elliott showed off that were kind of
Yeah.
unique, and it really felt like he brought more of a pro look to this defense given his NFL background, and it looked really good in the first game. Was there a defensive play that really stuck out on the film when you watched it?
They're off the top of my head, I forgot what quarter. I think it was third quarter. East Carolina ran like a little jet sweep action.
Yeah, they
Um,
brought
and
in
just
Vanderbilt legend Mike Wright, who has now
Oh,
been to
dude.
like five schools,
Hey,
but
man. He'll
he's
stick
I
eventually.
didn't even know he was at ECU. He comes in for that jet sweep and you can share the rest, but it wasn't pretty. I believe
Yeah.
what Chase
Yeah.
Bond on that play.
Chase Bond ended up finishing it, but Sebastian Harsh basically blew up the right tackle, pushed him like 5 yards down, right into where the handoff went, and Wright had nowhere to go and ended up getting cleaned up by like Chase Bond and all them.
Yep.
So yeah, Sebastian Harsh, he had a on true pass sets, which is essentially on PFF, they calculate them differently towards normal pressures. Essentially meaning a true pass set is a real pass set of like the quarterback's actually dropping back. It's not a screen, it's not any of this other stuff. He had a 41% win rate on his pass rushes on those kind of sets. So just to put that in perspective, Ruben Bain Jr., who's supposed to be a first round pick this year, had 33% win percentage on his true pass sets. So yeah, Harsh had a one of the best games in the country. And yeah, let's hope he can keep it up because it was dominant. It
Yeah,
was
I
it was really
mean,
good.
there's a reason PFF put him on the all week team for the ACC. It, clearly, he and Kean Sloan both
Oh yeah.
had a huge impact. As for the offense, was there a big play that sort of stuck out? Obviously, that they had those explosive plays, but and then we talked about Teddy Hoffman's third down, but was there one that really looked more impressive in the all 22?
Um, Not really off the top of my head. I think Hollywood had a couple really nice, cuts. There was one where I'm pretty sure it was just a counter and the offensive line totally just messed it up and he made two guys miss in the backfield, got like 3 yards, but still, it was really impressive. Um, this isn't a highlight, but CJ Bailey actually missed Terrell Anderson down the seam wide open and late in the third for a touchdown.
I saw
But
that.
yeah, he was
Yep.
wide open, and
Yeah.
I thought he was looking at him too until he looked at the end zone angle. He just didn't even look at him. But
We called that out in the press box. It was like,
yeah,
oh,
and
that's a
and they
miss.
were they were bringing a bunch of pressure all night,
They
and
were.
they were running a bunch of single high stuff, and Bailey was really on top of it for most of the game. It's just, you always look back. There's always those one plays that get you, and it was one of those, but didn't end up mattering in the end. So no, not too big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the play that I keep going back to just in terms of highlights and I don't watch the all 22 quite as closely as Daniel does, but um just because I'm not our X's and O's guy, but I know enough to get by. But the play that really stuck out with me on the end zone view and on the highlights, and then when I was actually at the game was Bailey's touchdown run. It just felt like he really maneuvered well there and sort of once he realized that he had room to go, he kind of hit this second gear and he ran really well through the contact and finished that run for the touchdown. And it just I was disappointed on the quarterback runs the rest of the game after he started with that because, and I don't know if some of it I think was play calling, and Kurt Roper
Yeah,
talked a little bit about that today. He said, we have to do a better job figuring out the run game and especially in the red zone. And I think we're sort of trying to take the ball out of the air for Bailey, especially in that fourth quarter as ECU started to get a little bit closer. And that's something to work on. But that one run to me showed that he's got way more mobility than we thought coming into the
mhm.
season. So last thing on the film before we wrap things up, what was your biggest takeaway from the all 22 view for the game?
Yeah, it's not, I guess, something too, hopeful, I guess, but this offensive line did not look good in the slightest.
Hmm.
I wrote about it a little bit, and that was before I watched the film, but they averaged, I think, 1.9 yards a carry.
Yeah, it was a tough day on the ground.
Yeah, there were not many running lanes open. Jalen Grant, and Kamen Smith, I don't like to, I'm not calling them out, but they didn't really have the greatest of games. Kamen Smith also, got benched in the middle of the game as well. But yeah, Kurt Roper introduced a little bit more gap schemes, essentially meaning, it's not that typical outside zone stuff that Wolfpack ran last year. It's a lot more counters and powers and duo actions, essentially meaning a lot more guys pulling. So there were a bunch of counter plays that just were not run well. Many guys missing blocks. It wasn't just the offensive line. Jolie missed a couple blocks as well. Um, and I always think of the worst is usually what my brain goes to. And if they block like that, it is going to be rough the rest of the season because the defensive lines will not get easier. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit interesting. Let's hope they can get that fixed up. But the offensive line is a big worry for me going forward. And it wasn't in the beginning of the season. I was pretty confident with this group. But after the first game, I am a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there on the offensive line. I think they had some moments. In terms of watching it on TV compared to and being able to rewatch some of the stuff, the thing that stuck out to me was they're gonna have to figure out, some ways to substitute the guys defensively faster if they're going to run this scheme that DJ Elliott's brought in. It's effective, but if they face team, and this is a problem around college football, and then I have something to add about that to your offensive line take. But um, as soon as teams go into tempo in college football, defenses have trouble adjusting. I feel like we saw that a lot with when we covered ASU last year was when teams would go up tempo.
Yeah.
ASU's defense would struggle because they're another defense that subs a lot of guys in and out on the secondary, especially. Um, so I think any defense that's counting on rotating guys to keep fresh legs in, um, that's something you got to figure out how to get guys in the game without getting burned on some of those big plays. And that was a problem in the second half because some of those NC State defensive backs, other than Marshall, had tired legs. Like I think Ronnie Royal, the surprise starter at safety, he I think played every single snap of the game defensively. I think he led the defense, and he was not great in his reps. He had a rough day, but he also, he hung in there and clearly won the job. I based on the way he was talking, it didn't sound like he had won the job, but he did. And he got the chance to show it off, and we'll see how he does. But they're going to need to clean some of that stamina and substitution pattern up before this Virginia game because Virginia's got some serious talent in the receiver core. Back to your offensive line point, it was interesting looking at the Virginia stat sheet and then also watching some of their highlights and then listening to their coach Tony Elliott talk today. They really didn't run the ball well at all.
Yeah.
Um, and their offensive line was, if you watch the highlights, their offensive line was okay. So, and a lot of the games I felt like I watched over the weekend, the line play ranged from okay to poor. I really wasn't impressed with anybody's. It didn't feel like there was a team that was just absolutely road grading, at least against like good on good competition.
No,
Maybe
yeah.
maybe Florida State's offensive line was pretty good, but I feel like that was more schematic because of Gus Malzahn's strategy and the way they run the ball, his teams
Mhm.
run the ball. So that was just my take on the offensive line issues. I think you're probably right. That isn't the team's strongest unit, but I just think a lot, especially in the college game, those things tend to work out in the long run more often than not.
It's first week, 100%. And
Yeah.
there's a couple missed blocks, but I think just what really stood out to me was just a lot of like you're in the right spot and then you're just getting beat within, a second. And it's
Yeah.
just I noticed that a lot with Jalen Grant, and I don't want to single anyone out because it's the first week. It's not, it's
Yeah.
not the biggest deal,
And
but
I
yeah.
do think, especially on the interior, we're going to see a lot of different guys in the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That
I would not be
and they
surprised.
tried some guys out even in this first game. Grant came out, Spike Souls came in, showed off some solid stuff. Not great, but Doran said that's not something that it's we're going to see more of that. It's pretty clear
Yeah.
that nobody on that unit outside of Peak and Carter and probably Teague Anderson's jobs are safe. So those guard and center spots are certainly up for grabs.
I will credit them as well. In the pass game, they were excellent. There was only four pressures for the entire game,
Yeah,
and they handled the stunts, they handled the blitzes perfectly. Kamen Smith gave up three pressures. He was the highest one out of the four.
yeah.
So outside of that, like, I mean, they picked up everything really well. It's just the one game that concerned me. And with Kurt, it's clear he wants to run the ball. So that's just kind of like, if you become one-dimensional, I still don't know how confident I am in this team becoming a one-dimensional pass team. It looked good against East Carolina, but at the end of the day, it's still East Carolina, and they
Hmm.
lost a bunch of talent in that secondary. So yeah, it's we're just gonna have to. It's the first game.
It's the
It's
first
a lot of
game.
moving parts.
The
A
first
lot
game.
of moving parts.
Well, that was an excellent breakdown. Thank you as always, Dan. We're going to have more content coming about the Virginia game throughout the week. We're going to get that started tomorrow, and we'll talk about, some of the looks that we saw from Virginia in their opener against Coastal Carolina, as well as some of the players that stuck out for them and what Tony Elliott has done to that program. They're certainly on the rise after they won 3 games in his first 2 years, then they won 5 last year. So they're improving incrementally, but it's starting to get to the point where Elliott's going to have to prove that this thing's moving in the right direction, and it seems like uh, they have some players. Doran certainly seems to think they have a quarterback now. So we will see how that all turns out, and we'll talk about that throughout this week. Excited to continue our coverage there. Dan, thanks for joining us. As always, it's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Folks, if you want more content from Dan, follow his X account, Daniel underscore Rios 72.
There we go.
If you want more Wolfpack content, you can follow my X account at Tucker Sen or at Senate Tucker. Sorry, mix that one up. Mixing my own up now.
Uh,
Or the website's X account at Wolfpack on SI. You can also find all of these podcast episodes on the Sports Videos on SI YouTube channel for all of our press conference coverage as well as more podcast episodes. Thanks as always for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you next time.